Ever wondered how one man, born into a life of hardship on the vast, unforgiving steppes of Mongolia, could unite a fractured people and build the largest contiguous land empire in history? This is the story of Genghis Khan and the unstoppable Mongol war machine he unleashed upon the world. Our story begins not with a mighty emperor, but with a young boy named Temujin. Born around 1162, his early life was anything but glorious. His father, a minor chieftain, was poisoned by a rival tribe, and Temujin's own clan abandoned him, his mother, and his siblings, leaving them to fend for themselves. These years were brutal. He faced starvation, capture, and betrayal. But this adversity didn't break him. It forged him. He learned to survive, to be ruthless, to trust no one but his closest allies, and most importantly, to never, ever give up. From these humble beginnings, Temujin began his rise. Through a combination of strategic alliances, personal charisma, and sheer military genius, he started bringing the disparate and constantly warring Mongol tribes under his control. He didn't just conquer them, he assimilated them. He broke down the old tribal structures that had fueled centuries of conflict. Loyalty was no longer to a clan, but to him and to the new, unified Mongol nation he was building. By 1206, at a grand assembly known as a Kurultai, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, the universal ruler of all Mongols. The stage was set. So, what made the Mongol army so terrifyingly effective? It wasn't just about numbers. It was about speed, discipline, and brilliant tactics. At the heart of it all was the Mongol warrior and his horse. Mongol horses were small, hardy, and incredibly resilient. They could survive on sparse vegetation and endure extreme temperatures. Each warrior would have multiple mounts, allowing them to switch to a fresh horse mid-journey, covering up to 100 miles a day. This gave them a level of strategic mobility that no other army of the time could match. They could appear where they were least expected, striking with devastating speed and disappearing before a response could be mustered. The primary weapon of the Mongol warrior was the composite bow. Made from sinew, horn, and wood, it was a masterpiece of engineering. It was light enough to be used from horseback, but powerful enough to pierce armor at a distance. The Mongols were master archers, trained from childhood to shoot with deadly accuracy while riding at a full gallop. A volley of arrows from a Mongol cavalry unit was like a sudden lethal storm. But it wasn't just about the charge. Mongol tactics were sophisticated and incredibly clever. One of their signature moves was the feigned retreat. A portion of their army would pretend to break and flee in disarray, luring the overconfident enemy into a chase. Once the enemy's formation was stretched out and disorganized, the fleeing Mongols would turn, and a larger, hidden force would emerge from the flanks, encircling and annihilating the trapped army. They used this tactic time and time again, with devastating success. Genghis Khan was also a master of psychological warfare. He understood that fear could be a more powerful weapon than any sword or arrow. Before attacking a city, he would often offer terms of surrender. If the city submitted, its people were usually spared and incorporated into the empire. But if they resisted, the consequences were horrific. After a successful siege, the Mongols would often make an example of the city, ensuring that tales of their brutality spread far and wide. This reputation preceded them, causing many future opponents to surrender without a fight, saving Mongol lives and resources. Furthermore, the Mongols were brilliant intelligence gatherers. Before any major campaign, they sent spies and scouts to map the terrain, assess the enemy's strength, and identify political weaknesses they could exploit. They built a vast network of information, which allowed them to plan their campaigns with meticulous precision. They also established the YAM, an incredibly efficient postal relay system. This network of stations with fresh horses and riders allowed messages and intelligence to travel across the empire at an unprecedented speed, keeping the great Khan constantly informed. Under Genghis Khan's leadership, This incredible war machine was first turned against the Jurchen Jin dynasty in northern China. Here, the Mongols encountered a new challenge: fortified cities. Nomads of the steppe had little experience with siege warfare, but Genghis Khan was a pragmatist. He captured Chinese engineers and forced them to build siege engines for his army catapults, battering rams, and even primitive rockets. He learned, adapted, and overcame. Next, his gaze turned west, toward the wealthy Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. What began as a trade dispute escalated into a full-scale invasion after the Khwarezmian Shah made the fatal mistake of executing Mongol envoys. Enraged, Genghis Khan unleashed a multi-pronged invasion that utterly crushed the empire. Great cities like Samarkand and Bukhara, centers of Islamic culture and learning, were razed to the ground. This campaign cemented the Mongols' reputation for unstoppable fury. The Mongol army was also incredibly well organized. Genghis Khan structured it based on a decimal system. Units of 10 men, called arban, were formed into units of 100, 1,000, and finally a 10,000-man unit called a tumen. This structure was based on merit, not on old tribal loyalties. A soldier's promotion depended on his skill and loyalty, creating a highly motivated and professional fighting force. Discipline was absolute. If one man in an arban retreated without orders, all 10 were executed. This fostered an incredible sense of unity and collective responsibility on the battlefield. Genghis Khan's path of conquest was relentless. By the time of his death in 1227, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. He had laid the foundation for an empire that his sons and grandsons would expand even further, reaching into Europe, the Middle East, and the rest of China. The legacy of Genghis Khan is complex. To many, he was a brutal conqueror who left a trail of destruction, but he was also a visionary leader. He created a written language for the Mongols, established a code of law known as the Yasa, and promoted trade and communication across his vast domain, creating a period of relative peace known as the Pax Mongolica. He connected East and West like never before, allowing goods, ideas, and technologies to flow across the Silk Road. The story of Genghis Khan is a testament to the power of vision, discipline, and strategic innovation. From an outcast boy on the steppe, he rose to become one of the most influential figures in human history, forging a nation and an army that changed the world forever. The Mongol war machine he created remains one of the most remarkable military phenomena of all time. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe for more epic history stories, and let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see us cover next. See you in the next video.